In the previous videos, we explored several of Bodhidharma's core teachings. He warned that religion alone cannot lead to awakening. He said the Buddha is not outside us. He taught that searching for enlightenment might create more distance. And today we arrive at a deeper insight, an insight that lies at the heart of Zen awakening. Bodhidharma said, "To awaken means to see through appearances." Look around you for a moment. Everything appears solid. The world around you, your body, your thoughts and your identity, which defines who you are. All of it feels real, meaningful. But according to Zen, this certainty is an illusion, because what we see is only appearance. Now, at this point, it is almost certain that a sense of self, the ego that has been built over a very long period of time, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, perhaps even hundreds or thousands of years of conditioning. And when what you are hearing begins to threaten it, the ego will immediately jump up and scream in your face. It will shout inside your mind, "Are you losing your mind? You must be joking." It will become very loud, very defensive. It will try to prove that you are wrong. It will search for arguments, for evidence, for anything it can use to defend itself. It might say something like this: "If thoughts are just an illusion, then how can thoughts create things that are clearly real? Houses, cars, buildings, entire cities. Thoughts create careers, friendships, relationships with colleagues, don't they?" Yes, this is exactly how the ego argues. And then it will push even further. If all of that is an illusion, then what is real? That is exactly how the ego speaks. It has always spoken this way. But wait a moment. In everyday life, we rarely question what we perceive. We see objects, people. We see events unfolding, and we assume that what we see is the truth. But Zen points out something subtle. What we perceive is not reality itself. It is a mental interpretation of reality. The mind labels. It categorizes. It constructs meaning. And these constructions create the world we experience. Zen often describes the world as a world of names and forms. We see a tree and call it a tree. We see a person and call them friend or enemy. We experience events and label them good or bad. But these labels are nothing but interpretations created by the mind. The awakened mind, however, sees this clearly. It sees that appearances are constantly changing, and therefore cannot be the ultimate truth. Once the mind believes appearances are real and permanent, attachment begins. We cling to success. We cling to identity, to relationships. We cling to the image we have of ourselves. But appearances are unstable. They change constantly. And when something we cling to changes or disappears, suffering appears. This is why Zen says that attachment is the root of suffering, not because the world is cruel, but because the mind demands permanence from what is impermanent. It wants things to remain the same. It wants pleasure without loss. It wants identity without change. But the world does not work that way. Everything is moving. Everything is transforming. Zen masters sometimes compare life to a dream. When you are dreaming, everything feels real. The events, the emotions, the people you meet. But when you wake up, you realize the dream had no solid reality. Zen suggests that ordinary perception works in a similar way. We are immersed in appearances, and we assume they are absolute. Awakening is like waking from that dream. Now, we've touched on the important point. that awakening means seeing through appearances. But seeing through appearances does not mean denying the world. Do not misunderstand this. The world continues to exist. Mountains remain mountains. People remain people. But the awakened mind understands that all forms are temporary expressions. They arise, they change, and they disappear without clinging to them. That is the central point of all of this, without clinging to them. When the mind sees through appearances, attachment begins to loosen, because they see no reason to cling to something that has no real substance. Then you may ask, what happens to life? When you don't cling to anything whatsoever, success no longer intoxicates the ego. Failure no longer hurts. Praise and criticism lose their power, because the mind understands their temporary nature. In truth, this does not create indifference. It creates freedom. The key to awakening is not changing the world. It is changing how you see the world. Instead of being hypnotized by appearances, the awakened mind sees their empty nature. Thoughts appear and vanish. Emotions arise and dissolve. Experiences come and go. But your awareness remains unchanged. Attention moves away from the changing forms and rests in the awareness that observes them. The seeker begins to realize that the awareness watching the world is not bound by the world it perceives. Instead, it recognizes the vastness of its own nature. This is what Zen calls seeing your true nature and rest in that. That's all. Bodhidharma's teaching is both simple and profound. Also notice that awakening does not require escaping the world. It requires seeing the world clearly, seeing that appearances are temporary, seeing that attachment creates suffering, and seeing that behind all appearances there is awareness itself. When you see through appearances, the illusion fades. All right, by now we've explored a profound insight from Zen. Together, we have begun to see through the illusion of attachment to appearances. We understand that it is this attachment that gives rise to suffering. We have also seen that the world which appears solid and permanent is, in truth, nothing more than a constant flow of changing forms. But even when we understand this idea intellectually, something still keeps the mind trapped. Do you know what it is? Bodhidharma described this force as the three poisons of the mind. They are greed, anger, and delusion. These three poisons shape almost every human thought and action. Now, we'll take a closer look at these three fundamental roots of suffering. If you look carefully at human history, most suffering can be traced to just three forces: the desire to possess, the urge to destroy, and the inability to see clearly. Zen calls these forces the three poisons. And according to Bodhidharma, as long as these poisons control the mind, awakening remains impossible. Greed is the mind's constant desire for more pleasure, more security, more recognition, even more spiritual progress. Greed is the belief that happiness lies somewhere outside the present moment. This desire creates a strange paradox. The more we obtain, the more the mind wants. A new possession quickly loses its excitement. Success creates the desire for greater success. Recognition creates the desire for more recognition. The mind becomes like a fire that cannot be satisfied, always consuming, never resting. The problem with greed is not desire itself. The problem is the illusion that fulfillment lies in the next acquisition, because the next acquisition never ends the search. The mind simply moves the goal further away. Zen sees greed as a poison because it traps us in a cycle of endless dissatisfaction. The second poison is anger. Anger arises when reality does not match our expectations. Someone insults us. Plans fail. Life unfolds in an unwanted direction. The mind reacts with resistance, and this resistance becomes anger. Now, once again, we must speak about the ego. When something does not happen as expected, that expectation belongs to the ego. The ego always wants reality to unfold exactly according to its desires. But when things do not go that way, the ego reacts immediately, and that reaction quickly turns into anger. And once anger reaches its peak, it becomes something extremely difficult to control and deeply dangerous. Because the nature of anger is destruction. It burns and consumes, just like a fierce fire raging within. Anger has a powerful energy. It narrows perception. It pushes the mind into conflict. In extreme cases, it leads to violence. But even subtle anger creates suffering, resentment, frustration, bitterness. These emotions keep the mind agitated, preventing clarity. Zen does not deny that anger arises. It recognizes that emotions naturally appear in the mind, but the awakened mind does not cling to them. Anger is seen as a temporary movement of energy. It arises, it peaks, and it dissolves, without becoming identity. Let us say that again, without becoming identity. The third poison is the most subtle, delusion. Delusion means not seeing reality clearly. The egoic mind, or the ego, believes its thoughts are absolute truth. It believes its identity is real. It believes happiness lies in external conditions. But these beliefs are illusions created by the egoic mind itself. Delusion is the root from which greed and anger grow. If the mind believes happiness lies in external things, greed appears. If the mind believes threats are real and permanent, anger appears. But when delusion dissolves, the other poisons lose their power. Zen does not try to suppress the poisons. Instead, it transforms them. When seeing clearly, greed becomes generosity. Anger becomes clarity. Delusion becomes wisdom. This transformation happens only when the mind sees its own nature. When awareness observes the mind clearly, something happens. Greed loses its grip. Anger loses its urgency. Delusion begins to dissolve. Not because the mind forced them away, but because clarity exposes their illusion, and they vanish on their own. That is why Bodhidharma reminded us again and again, under the light of awareness, all delusions disappear. Because in truth, they have no real substance, and what has no real substance cannot stand in the light of wisdom. Bodhidharma's teaching is both simple and challenging. Human suffering is not created by the world. Again, don't blame the world. Suffering is created by the poisons within the mind: greed, anger, delusion. These poisons are not permanent. They are patterns of confusion. And once the mind sees them clearly, their power fades. The moment the mind clearly sees the nature of its poisons, the path to awakening begins.